Okay. First of all, I'm Γιώργος Βελεγράκης. As Kostis said, I did my PhD here in Harkopio University, dealing mostly with extractivism, mineral extractive activities, and a specific socio-environmental conflict taking place in the north of Greece against gold extraction. After I finished my PhD, I'm now, over the last 5 years, I'm an adjunct lecturer at the University of Athens in the History and Philosophy of Science department. And I'm referring to that because I have slightly changed my focus on having all the background from geography, political ecology, but now something very crucial in my analysis and research project is the question of technology. How the question of technology and how the question of the history of technology is getting into the picture, and it helps us understand all these big debates around extractivism, climate change, and smart technologies. We tried with Diego not to overlap, but there is going to be some overlapping. And the problem is that probably I should have gone first, because you can see my presentation mainly as the basis of what Diego explained, especially in his second part, where he started talking about the socio-environmental movements and conflicts. I'm focusing more on understanding, putting the basis, putting the theoretical and research basis of what can be called the new phase of extractivism, if exists as such, and how this is connected with all these green minerals, the discussion around climate change, and especially around smart technologies. So let's start with the facts, very, very briefly and very quickly. Last March of 2023, we had the last IPCC report, the 6th IPCC report. It was very, very alarming. It was the one that said we are forgetting about the 1.5 increase in the global temperature. We are now talking if we can keep the limit beyond 2 points. So, just to keep it brief, we have all the scientists from all over the world coming together, producing these reports every 2 or 3 years, and the last one was very alarming. The other thing that you should know about IPCC reports is that the language and the vocabulary they are following, it's very strict, and it's also a debate. It is also an arena of debate. What exactly wording they are going to use. So the use of saying specifically the numbers they are putting in the final and the indicators they are putting in this report is very crucial. Okay, so I put here only the ones that are saying that we are highly confident that these are the facts that we are presenting. So we have the science community, let's call it like this, producing this IPCC report. And then we go to the COP. The COP is the community of parties, the conference of the parties, that is the global institution that is supposed to take the scientific report coming from the IPCC and producing specific policies for tackling climate change. So we produced this report in March 2023, and in late November, December of 2023, we had the COP28 that happened in Dubai. The president of the COP is this guy here, Sultan Al Jaber, and he is the president, the CEO of the National Oil Company of Dubai. This guy, as a result of the COP, he said the following: "I'm not in any way signing up to any discussion that is alarmist. There is no science out there or no scenario out there that says that the phase out of fossil fuel is what's going to achieve 1.5 degrees. At the end of the day, remember, it is the demand that will decide and dictate what sort of energy source will help meet the growing global energy requirements. And this, he's not just any guy, he's the guy that we as global community chose to be the COP28 president, that he's supposed to take the decisions of how science is transferred into global politics. So this depicts, in my opinion, in the best way, what I call the climate change paradox. This climate change paradox is, as Eric Zwigedo described in this classroom some weeks ago, by saying that despite the fact that we know a lot, we act like we know nothing about climate change. Okay. Another way to see it is, as Ahmed and Kerner put it, which is that they say the air, I changed the word air with climate change, and they say it's different. There is a dichotomy, or there is a paradox between what is felt as the environment, as the climate change, as the air, and how it is being governed. And I put it, the way I put it is that the climate change effects that seem to be 100% present in the physical sphere, in the physical space, they suddenly disappear in the economic financial space of the markets. That's how I try to put this climate change paradox. And then it comes the question, why this happens? We can argue very quickly and very easily that behind it is capitalism and capitalist relations. I agree with that. Everybody would agree with that. What I'm trying to find, my main research question is not that. It's not what is driving climate change. My main research question is what is driving climate change politics. What is driving the strategies and the politics that are supposed to be against climate change. And as I said before, as I'm now focusing a lot on the role of science, I'm trying to see if there is a specific role of science and technology in this discourse, in this climate change adaptation, mitigation, or whatever you want to call it, discourse. This is my somehow overall question of this presentation. So in order to answer the questions, I go back to bibliography and to references. And here there are several ways to see it. There are several researchers, they have written a lot. Some of them have presented here. Eric has written a lot about this. Maria Kaika has written a lot. I will focus here only on two researchers that I really like. The one is Andreas Malm, that he wrote this, in my opinion, very, very beautiful and very important book, which is called Fossil Capital, back in 2016. And I refer to Andreas Malm because I think he helps us understand the origins of climate change by focusing on what is called the fossil capital. What is the fossil capital according to Andreas Malm? Andreas Malm is making a very simple observation. The observation is that if we start by the Industrial Revolution up to the present, and we see any kind of, if we take any kind of economic indicator, we will see that in its kind of evolution throughout time, this development of any kind of indicator is going up and down. He's following, according to his opinion, he's following what the famous Belgian economist Mandel said about the long waves of capitalism and the long waves of capital. And he says, yes, there are these big long waves that we're seeing ups and down in capital, in any kind of economic indicator. Let's take, for example, economic growth. But we observe that CO2 is getting always up. So why this happens? According to his opinion, there are two explanation factors on this. The first one is a totally scientific one. CO2 works in a cumulative way. If you have CO2 in the air, it takes a long time to be absorbed by plants, by air and so on, so it stays there. What we have burned and we have produced CO2, it stays there. The other reason, it's very important because it's economic, social and political in his opinion. He says that we should focus a lot on the downturns of the economic growth, because in this period, specifically in the periods of a growth recession, we as community, or capitalism, let's call it like this, creates all the political, economic and social context for the next boom. And by creating this context for the next boom, is creating also the context for the next CO2 boom. So therefore, this is one part of what is calling, what Andreas Malm is calling fossil capital. The other way to see it is through the history of technology. And the history of technology, I'm trying to be very brief, it goes like this. So if you see it in the way to see industrial revolution, you would say that there is a burning of coal, but as a technological choice, I'm not focusing a lot on that, but he has a very interesting story of saying how the English capitalists of the 19th century, early 19th century, decided to choose coal burning instead of water, because they could use water for the use of the industries at that time, but because of the power that the coal was producing, how from the burning of coal we went to the steam engine. This helped, this is a very typical history of technology lesson that helps the continuous circular motion by this VAT engine. It helps producing machines and vehicles. This leads to the mechanization of industry and transport, self-sustained growth, and the question of power. But anyway, I just want to say that according to him, there is a kind of origin in seeing climate change. And he says in order to understand what climate change is today, we should go back into history, and we should go back especially in the history of technology in order to understand what is going on. The other reader, the other writer that I really like about and I'm focusing a lot is the latest book of Nancy Fraser that is called Cannibal Capitalism. In my opinion, this book that was published in 2022, in this book, Nancy Fraser says another thing that is very, very interesting and important. I think what Fraser says is that we should focus on in order to understand the ecological crisis, it's very important to understand the division, the constitutive division of capitalism between exploitation and expropriation. So instead of focusing only on the commodification, commercialization, financialization, marketization of nature, of environment processes and so on, Nancy Fraser proposes that we should focus also on the, let's say, the direct stealing of resources. That is, in capitalism there is not only exploitation that we know through the economic sphere, but there are always areas, sources, places, and communities, in her opinion, that capital wants to appropriate directly without even getting into the regulatory framework of markets, of global economy, and so on. And in my opinion, this is also very important to understand how capitalism is creating these places that needs to be always somehow appropriated, especially when it goes to resources and extractivism. Then, the other part to understand this debate, or to, in my understanding anyway, to see how these climate change politics are being developed throughout the years, or at least throughout the last 15 years, I then go back to science, to see in the history of science and in the history of technology what the scientific community is bringing up. Over the last, in the first century, in the first decade of the 21st century, actually we had these three main scientific concepts that dominated our understanding of climate change. This is the Anthropocene, the Great Acceleration, and the planetary boundaries. Okay, they are different, but pretty much they have some same basis at some degree. Very, very briefly, the Anthropocene, although it's being a lot questioned nowadays, when it was first introduced, it said that pretty much there is this geology of mankind. A very short article in Nature by Krugen and Sturmer. They had the Nobel Prize, and they said pretty much that man is becoming now a geological factor for the environment. Pretty much the same are doing or did the team of an Australian-American researcher, Stephen, that proposed the Great Acceleration, that said that between 1750s and nowadays all of the physical indicators that somehow sustain global life are getting up, and we should do something about it. And the third one is by a Swedish or a North European group led by Sturmer, a Swedish scientist, that said there are these planetary boundaries. What it means there are planetary boundaries, somehow Earth can be envisioned as a sphere, as something that is as a big system that has subsystems, and if we keep some limits within this subsystem, everything will go okay, and we are fine with the big problems that we are facing somehow. They say that, you see, these are the red ones we have already overpassed. Let's go back to see if we can keep it back to the green area, because things are getting much more easier. In my opinion, very important in this, especially in the planetary boundaries framework, is that they argue that these thresholds in key Earth subsystems processes exist independently of human preferences or value and other socioeconomic factors. So it's somehow nature is 100% independent from any kind of socioeconomic activity, somehow. In order to see all of them together, I think this is what is behind these ideas. Although they are very crucial for bringing in the public debate how science is looking at climate change, unfortunately, in my opinion, they have this fantasy or this hidden, maybe, ideology that I will try to explain a bit more. Actually, the last paper, Planetary Boundaries, is saying it directly. What we're trying to do is to create the safe operating space for humanity. And I think, in my opinion, it is somehow what is hidden there is that if we find the right technology, the smartest city, the greenest design, the most environmental friendly city form, we will all live happily ever after on Earth's new geological epoch. So therefore, it's kind of an understanding of how to move forward without making any kind of transformations, any kind of socio-ecological transformations. And this leads to, okay, I here say what are, in my opinion, the critiques of these aspects. You can just keep the last one. In my opinion, science and technology are presented at the moment as the only solution for climate change adaptation, mitigation, and so on. At least in public policies. At least in public policies, in the international policies. And why this is happening, and here comes the technology question. I'm here referring to a German sociologist, Neckel, that says that unfortunately environmental politics nowadays are dominated by what is called technological solutionism. That technology can save us. I know it sounds a bit naive, and I know in the critical approach, understanding, and maybe in this classroom or in the way we are doing our classes, we think this is too easy to say, too naive, and maybe very, in a way, simplistic, but I'm afraid that the global international politics are a lot dominated by this solutionism, by this kind of technology solution. And you can see it in different cases. You can see it in the case of the new energy source, which is hydrogen. You can see it on how the electric cars are being promoted as the only solution, as one of the main solutions to climate change, without discussing any other options. And here I'm referring to this very interesting book by Gabriele Hecht, a historian of technology. She wrote it back in the 90s, that she explained how the nuclear program of France was created. And she showed that exactly the opposite of what technological solutionism proposes and says. That technology, science and technology are 100% social and historically contextualized processes. And therefore, she used the example, it's very interesting because she used the example of how the France's nuclear reactors were created. There were two designs, one coming from the French army and the other coming from the French Public Energy Corporation. How different they were, these reactors, and why they were different, and which one was chosen. And it proved that it was chosen the one that was also able to produce nuclear weapons, and not only nuclear energy. So therefore, she tries to see that who takes the responsibility. This is the question that is trying to answer. Who takes the responsibility of technological bets and so on? And okay, I leave it. I'm not focusing a lot on that. I'm just trying to say, as a final slide of this technology question and technology debate, is that technology is not defined in a linear way. Okay, if we look back into what renewable energy was in the beginning of the 19th century, in the beginning of the 20th century, we would see artifacts, inventions, machines, whatever you want to call them, that now are promoted as innovative. Now are promoted as something new, innovative, that came from the new technology. Back in the 90s, we had the first electric cars, that they were 100% on renewables, by using directly the use of air. We had the small-scale windmills. This is from Lasithi in Crete, where you had this of independent, autonomously, smaller autonomously energy production that is now promoted in local communities with this, for example, idea of new small-scale production. And this is what we call in history of technology the closed versus the open energy systems, what it means finally to always have the black box of technology, black box in technology without understanding this as a design that can be close to the needs and not something very complex and not repairable at all. As I don't have much time, and I think Diego said a lot of things, I will skip some of my slides, because then the second part is pretty much what Diego said about energy transitions and how this energy transition today is it seems like being the dominant factor for climate change, for any politics against climate change. But this new energy transition, as Diego explained, creates new extractivism, and therefore we should focus a lot and we should understand the geography of new extractivism that is being produced because of this energy transition, the political ecology, the political economy, and in my opinion, always keeping in mind the technology issue. Diego referred to another book about the Greek colonialism in North Africa and in the Arab countries. Very, very interesting book. I'm referring to another one, which is also, in my opinion, it was published just two months ago. It's called The Geopolitics of Green Colonialism. You can find it online from Pluto Press. And they discuss that how these kind of new energy technologies that are based on green, smart, new minerals are actually not only continuing, but in some cases intensifying this colonialism from the global north to the global south, because we naturally assume that all the critically raw materials and extensions of land will come from somewhere. Where is this somewhere? It's always the global, in most of the cases, is the global south. So I have here just 3 slides to show you, again, as Diego said before, especially lithium, in any scenarios, is going to be it's going to be highly intensified. The extraction of lithium is going to be highly intensified over the next years. This is from the official, the International Agency, International Energy Agency. So you can see how much we're going to have the lithium, for example. And here you see where they are being used. These new minerals, these are the new green minerals. As you can see, mostly they are going to be used in electric cars. In, again, a kind of automobile in transportation, and then in wind turbines, solar and other energy resources. And finally, where they are concentrated. As we can see here, these data are from 2022, of March 2022. As it says also the title of this graph, the minerals for energy transition are more geographically concentrated than that of coal or oil and natural gases. China is going to play a huge role because they have a lot of the minerals, but something that is not that well shown in this map is in this graph is, first of all, DRC is Congo in Africa, and the second thing is the triangle. Diego referred to it in a title, the Latin America triangle, which is Argentina, Chile, and Bolivia, that are having the biggest reservoirs of lithium as far as we know so far. I leave it here and just leave it as a final comment. Diego discussed about something else, about the movements, the strategy of the movements. I haven't turned into this aspect. I'm focusing a lot only on the analysis of climate change politics. And I'm saying that if we are questioning all this discussion about green colonialism, new extractive regimes, and everything, I think we should also question sustainability as such. And I'm saying to question sustainability as such because I think, and again, I'm referring to Diego because he hinted to it also, that any kind of energy transition, in fact, I'm not sure that we are answering any huge environmental problem, but we are answering, we are trying to find a new way for the prosperity of the global north, or some of the social class, the dominant social classes, against either the environment or some other communities. And I am in 30 minutes precisely. Thank you. I hope it was clear. And I hope, Diego, you could follow the argument and the presentation.
Thank you, Giorgio.